Marvel Rivals has completely taken over my free time lately, and I am loving every minute of it. It's been a really fun experience for me, and I am not contractually bound to say that, by the way. All right, but I've been seeing a lot of people doing tier lists, and it got me thinking, why don't I make my own? Give my thoughts on how these characters are performing in the alpha meta. It's very early on, but I gotta say, I honestly think it's quite balanced. If anything, I think a lot of the characters maybe do a little bit too well, and there's not many characters that are weak that require buffs. But here we have the tiers, okay? So we got the crown, which is going to be just one character, the best in the game in my opinion. The crying emoji at the bottom there is for the singular worst character in the game in my opinion. And then we got all the tiers in between. I've been playing this game every single night on Twitch. We've been streaming on Twitch. I got the link in the description below. Go and follow your boy. I could use some support over there. It's real quiet, but I've been having a great time just hanging out with anyone who jumps in and playing this game. We've been playing with so many creators, Snap creators. We're on a team with Banks, Cozy, Alex, Dara, Dexter. It's the dream team. It's the Avengers all assembled together competing in an upcoming tournament. So definitely stay tuned for that, man. It's been a great time. I just been having a lot of fun. But I wanted to talk about these characters, put them in a tier list real quick. So here we go. And we're going to start off with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man for me is a B tier character. It can be really good in the right hands, but if you're not the type of player that knows how to get in, get out with his abilities, he's very difficult to use. He's the highest difficulty character in the game. Well, it's not going to work out very good for you or your team. Then you got Mantis. I'm going to put Mantis as well in the B tier. In fact, I'm also going to put MAGIK in the B tier. Mantis is a very good healer, but she's very squishy. If you get jumped in the back line, she can't do a whole lot. She does have a sleep, which can, really disorient the attacker. But if she's really alone, she's going to be hoping her allies come and help her. And I'm really thinking about this tier list as like a solo queue in mind. You're just jumping into the game. You go and do a quick match. What are the characters that are going to just generally do a lot better than others that maybe require some team support or anything like that? And Mantis, I feel like she needs a competent team to really excel. And when she does, she definitely does. MAGIK is also kind of in that category, just because I see a lot of people thinking, oh, I'm MAGIK. I'm just going to turn the lights on and go in and destroy the enemy team. No. And it doesn't quite always work out that way. A fairly decent enemy team is just going to go, hey, MAGIK's attacking us, delete her. And then they will. And especially if she goes in alone, well, it's going to be bad news. So you really have to get your timing right with this character. And if you do, you can definitely pop off and absolutely annihilate the enemy team, especially the squishy backlines. And then you can get out there with your portals. So still a good character. None of these characters, by the way, in my opinion, are useless or terribly bad or a complete liability on the team. Even the crying emoji one, which we'll get to. Next up is going to be Storm. I'm going to put Storm in the C tier. She's been a little bit underwhelming for me. She's a flyer, so she's constantly hovering in the air, and she can kind of have a very good vertical reach on maps. But I don't know. She seems a little bit squishy. She can give aura buffs to your allies, but I just haven't really seen her pop off, except for her ultimate. That has been fantastic. When you can get the ultimate going, very, very good character. But generally, flyers are just a little bit weak in this game because they're getting sniped by some of the top tier characters in the game. One of those being actually Groot. He's not necessarily sniping anybody, but he is one of the tankiest tanks in the game who can just get in there, put up some walls, do a little bit of Fortnite action, and protect himself and protect his allies. If you're putting up a bunch of walls and all that, skills or auto attacks are hitting those walls instead of your allies, that's so much damage soaked. So a very, map aware Groot can perform very well. And if you're not too map savvy, I think you're going to be just fine because he's so tanky, so beefy anyways. Then we have our first S tier. In fact, our first two S tier characters. I'm going to put Starlord and Punisher up there at the same time. When I first started playing this game, I thought Starlord was the most broken character in the game. He has a lot of mobility. He can do all kinds of flips and shit. And then you can't really properly aim at him, and then all of a sudden he's peppering you with his dual blasters. And then his ultimate is he just doesn't miss. He just starts blasting away. He can fly into all kinds of crazy directions, and then he shoots you and you're dead. So I was like, oh, this guy's crazy. But then as you get a little bit more accustomed to his play patterns, you can kind of read and assess it, and then, kind of try to snipe him from afar or do something to get a little bit of CC on him, and he's going to be manageable. But he's still definitely one of the top DPS in the game. Punisher is probably the entry-level character for DPS in this game, and yet he has so much utility. He has an assault rifle, and then he has a shotgun. So he can do damage from afar, damage up close. And then he's got a turret that's going to allow him to take less damage and deal a shit ton of damage to the enemies, which is awesome. It's a lot of fun to use, and you're a sitting duck. That's the only weakness. He has a bit of mobility issues. He has a zip line, which is great. It's going to get him somewhere quick, but it has a very, very, very big cooldown, and if that is down, he doesn't have a lot of means of escape. And that's his only weakness, probably, that's keeping him from being like a top tier character. But he's still S tier. He still pops off. You see a lot of Punishers go like 23-3 in a match or something like that. It can do very well once you get used to his auto attacks with the assault rifle and the shotgun switch in between. So good. Next is Namor. Namor is going to go in the C tier. I think Namor can be good, but he just seems a little bit underwhelming. He's dishing out some auto attacks. He has turrets in these octopi or octopals, you could call them. And they're a lot of fun. Pairs well with Luna Snow, where he gets a bonus one, which dishes out more damage, maybe even freezes. I'm not even 100% sure. And then he's got the whale ultimate, where he dishes out a giant fish, which happens to be Giganto, believe it or not. And that just deals a lot of damage in an area. But there just seems to be a lot of DPS that do his job just a little bit better, a little more efficient, a little bit easier. And the turrets die a little bit too quickly, in my opinion. So while not a bad character, can certainly pop off, and I've been destroyed by Namors in the past, probably on the lower end for me on this tier list. Next up is Luna Snow, a strategist in this game, and I'm going to put her in the B tier along with Mantis, the two strategists that I actually think are kind of the weakest, and I am not saying that they are weak, just weaker to the other two that we're going to talk about later. But Luna, she has good heals. She's got a very good ultimate where she can basically just prevent all damage that's coming in radius, essentially, or provide a lot of movement speed to your team. And she can freeze opponents. So that's a really good CC chain that she has, so she can kind of fend on her own. But she just feels like, to me, a character that heavily depends on your team. And if you're not in a coordinated team, if you're solo queuing into quick match, your team is definitely going to need some ports, need some heals. And these are good options, but they're going to be a little bit more difficult to find consistency with. But again, they're both great. Okay, and then you got Rocket, another strategist. He is an A tier strategist, in my opinion, and he's going right alongside his buddy Groot. Let's go. With Rocket, he just has very easy heals. So he shoots out an orb, and it has a radius around it. The orb doesn't even actually have to hit your ally to provide them with a heal. And you can shoot out a lot of these orbs. So all of a sudden, you're covering a radius that you don't even need good aim for, and you're healing your allies so that they can continue to do their tanking, DPS, or whatever they need to do. He can reach flyers by shooting in the air. He can reach some really far out melee DPS, like from afar, and give them some heals. He's just able to support from all angles. And on top of it, he has a resurrect ability where he can dish out a little device, and if an ally goes down, they're going to respawn there instead of all the way back at wherever the spawn point is. Very helpful utility. And then we're not even talking about like his DPS that he can dish out. Like, he has an insane auto attack on him. So he's just pretty good DPS, has utility, map control, and very good heals. He's an A tier support for me, strategist, I should say. Next up is Black Panther, my second most played character in this game, but I will still admit that this is the weakest character in the game, unfortunately. So Black Panther, I'm legit, maybe I'll pull a screenshot of this, but I'm legit, I've only lost once. I'm like 11-10 or something like that. I don't even know. Is that a fluke? Maybe. I'm not very overly good at this game by any stretch of the imagination, but I've found ways to make Black Panther work. And I think the best utility for this character is getting to the back line and making them shoot in the opposite direction of your team. If someone's behind them, putting the fear of God in their eyes, well, all of a sudden they're going to turn around and use abilities that way. not towards the objective, not towards your allies. They can do more work. And that, I think, is the power of Wakanda with Black Panther. And of course, you can do Genji things and like delete people and do all kinds of flips and shit. So that is pretty good too. But I think the true value is the distraction in Black Panther. Then we have Loki. Loki's going to go up to the A tier. Loki's really good, man. He can dish out a lot of damage, a lot of heals, a lot of distraction with all kinds of mirror images of himself, his clones, or whatever he calls them. And he also has an escape. He can go invisible. He can teleport by swapping with one of his clones. There's just so much going on with this character, and it seems really complicated, but once you get used to it and you're just, pressing those abilities on repeat, it's not too bad. And then he also has a heal that's going to completely nullify any damage in a radius of him or his clones. So you can do a crazy ultimate cancel with him. And by that, I mean like canceling or nullifying your opponent's ultimates, which is essentially game winning. Because a lot of the ultimates are what swing games. And if you can completely shut a few of them down, yeah, that's a huge win. Which one of them that he can completely shut down is my boy, Ironman. And I'm going to put Ironman in the B tier. That might be a little controversial. I think people are pretty down on Ironman, but he is my most played character in this game. And I've had nothing but pretty good success with this character. Yes, he has many counters, okay? He's a sitting duck. He can get sniped in the air because he's a flyer. He's just constantly in the air. You're never actually walking on the ground, which means you have a lot of the map to work with and hide behind. But at the same time, if you're just up in the sky with nobody around you, it's pretty easy for people to just go, oh, that guy up there, let's get him. He does have a nice escape. He does a lot of damage. He has a good team up ability with the Hulk, which actually gives him a significant power increase whenever he uses his armor power up. But I can't give him higher than B. Probably being generous with B, because most of his damage is AoE. It's not very targeted. You're whittling down the enemy, but if they have really good supports, it's not going to look like he's doing a whole lot. Then we have Doctor Strange. Man, Doctor Strange is going up to the A tier as well. He has a lot more utility than I first thought. So he has his portals, which he can kind of like shortcut the map for your allies, but your enemies can use it too. But then he can do some crazy things against your enemies by like making their bullets go back towards them, or maybe making them jump through a portal so they fall off the map. There's just like a lot of shenanigans that can happen with this character. But another thing he has is a shield. So he's just got a big round shield that soaks up any projectiles. But that includes ultimates. So a well-timed Doctor Strange shield can completely nullify an enemy ultimate. And I've seen some crazy instances of people doing that, and it's convinced me that this character is just really good. And on top of that, he's just a good DPS with his auto attacks and just a solid tank. So I definitely think that he, along with Groot, and we're actually going to go to him right now, Magneto, I think these are the best tanks in the game. The tanks are just generally pretty good, but Magneto is another pretty good one. He's got a shield that he can dish out to stop projectiles. He's also got shields that he can give to his allies, and he can dish out a decent amount of damage from afar because he's ranged, which is nice for a tank. You can kind of be in the front line, but don't have to overreach and get way into the enemy lines and get yourself killed. You can stay back, dish out some damage, get those kills from your allies, and just stay put, be a nice brick wall. So I find Magneto is a very solid character to have on the team, especially if you're new and you want to try tanking. I would recommend Magneto. I'll go to the last Vanguard here, the last tank, and that is Bruce Banner /Hulk /Evolved Hulk. So he can turn into all three of those. He can lose the health bars of all three. You only die when you die as Bruce Banner, which is a lot of health, a lot of damage that you got to soak up. But the thing is, he can be really good. He has a stasis that he can put on enemies to stop them from doing anything. He's got shields that he can give to his allies. He's got a leap to get in and out of danger. But he is just such an easy target to shoot at. He has a massive hitbox, and when the enemy knows that the Hulk is diving them, they just got to turn around and start shooting that guy. And you're going to probably whittle him down very, very quickly. So very good in the right hands, but just falls a bit short in my eyes in the tank department, as well as Penny Parker. Penny actually goes to C tier. And you know what? It's actually not even because the character is bad. She's really not. She can be very good, but the problem is, in my opinion, she's more of a DPS. honestly, just a very tanky DPS. And if people are using her in the tank spot and hoping that she's going to stand in front and soak a bunch of damage, she's just not going to do that. She's better at getting in the back lines and disrupting the enemy and making them focus on her when she can do a lot of movement, a lot of traps, and just overall generally distract the enemy team. So I find it like she makes sense as a Vanguard to be in that role, but it's a little bit of a trick if you're solo queuing and somebody thinks that they can just solo tank with her. That would not be an ideal situation. And I've seen a lot of instances where they try to do that and it does not work out. And the last two, which I think are some of the best, well, obviously some of the best, but let's go with Scarlet Witch in the S tier. And Hela is your queen of the alpha. So I think it's the consensus by the community at large that Hela is the best and Black Panther is the worst. That just seems to be what everyone's saying, and I agree. In my experience, it just holds true. Hela is insane. She has crazy auto attacks. She has a good escape. She's got a stun. She has a crazy ultimate where she goes super big and rains down hell from above. And yeah, she's just very strong. It's the auto attacks though that just snipe. Like if you're a flyer, you're Iron Man in the sky, you're gonna take one hit to like your foot, and you're gonna be like, "Whoa, that did half my health. Where did that come from?" And by the time you try to locate Hela, she's already put one between your eyes, and you're down. You're soaring down to the sky or to the ground, and she's just gonna keep doing that to you. So that's why flyers kind of struggle, I think, right now in the current meta because Hela is so prominent. She's one of the better heroes. And on top of that, like any of these squishies, she's just taken out with one shot to the head. She would be my most likely to receive a nerf before beta or whenever the game launches. And then Scarlet Witch is very good as well, but she is squishy. I think if people understand how she works, you can stop her from doing the craziness that she can do. But she has a very good escape, and she has very easy to hit auto attacks. One of the easiest DPS to pilot, in my opinion. And then her ultimate can literally erase the enemies if they are in the radius of her ultimate, which is pretty big, but she does do a big scream and it has a very long wind up. So you got to time it correctly. You got to get used to timing it, or else the enemy team can just kill you and then you lose your ultimate and you're dead. That's not great. But she is like those four at the top, in my opinion, are the best in the game. I think they just stand head and shoulders above everyone else, but there's a lot of tanks, a lot of strategists that can still do very good. Look at our entire A tier. It's all strategists and tanks. I just don't think that anyone's necessarily overtuned in that. I think generally the game's pretty balanced. That's just my opinion. This is my tier list. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below, and definitely click the link in the description to go over to my Twitch and click a follow if you want to see me live streaming this game. It's been a very good time. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.